Hello my friends and welcome back and happy Monday, happy new week for you. Are you ready to survive the week? I am. But you know what didn't survive last week? You guessed it, Russian A-50. What's a Russian A-50? Well, it's a Russian early warning and control aircraft, or AWACS. It's one of the most rarest and most expensive Russian aircraft. That's, interesting fact here, Russian Federation as a country has never produced any single one of these. All of them were produced under the Soviet Union, and altogether 40 were produced, out of which only 5 to 6 of them are actively usable now, and the rest of them are scrap metal or spare parts. So losing any one of these planes is a huge loss for the Russian Federation and its army, and Russian missiles have a very hard time flying in Ukrainian airspace without this aircraft. So they lost another one. In the span of 3 months, they have lost 2. Let's look why this plane is such a big deal. I'll read you a thread, and it's a really good and short summarizing thread. It's by Sergei Sumleny. Yes, said it correctly. Those who stress the price of an A-50 as a significance of its skill are wrong. The price is almost irrelevant. Payment done decades ago. Real significance is, number 1, there are very few A-50s. Russia doesn't produce new ones, the fleet is halved. And number 2, its crew is huge and not replaceable. Let's go deeper into what these 2 points mean, and he goes really perfectly into it. A-50's crew is 15 to 16 people. 15, I would say this is, in Russian Air Force, this would be the plane with the biggest and most highly trained crew at all, period. Losing this crew and the plane, you cannot replace these losses. Even the Soviet Union couldn't replace these losses. Training of these guys takes a long time. 10 to 11 out of them are highly skilled operators. Their education and training takes decades. Whoa, decades. So probably these guys who are now flying these planes, they started training in the Soviet Union. But they don't look that old. They have to have started training in the 90s then. A-50 carries 20 tons of special equipment. The last A-50 was produced in 1990. Yes. Well, Soviet Union was collapsed in 1991 under the weight of itself. So Russian Federation as a country has never produced a single one of these planes. If you see a date like 2011, which, if you go to Wikipedia, whichever page, A-50M, so the modernized version of this plane, was modified, which it says right here, it's modified in 2010, 11, 12, meaning it's an old platform from the 70s, Ilyushin 76, but it was modified with modernized equipment. They cannot produce it from zero anymore. It's just, they don't have the capability. Platforms such as this are ball game of China and USA, not Russia anymore. A modification of A-50 produced in 2012 looks modern, but when you look at it further, this plane was transferred to the USSR Air Force in 1984. In 2012, it was modified and transferred to Russian Air Force in 2013 in a new space gray color, like an Apple iPhone. So the bottom line, Russia never produced any A-50s. They are old and cannot be replaced. What is absolutely great, there is no escape for the crew if the plane is hit. Actually, it is not planned that the plane with such omnipresent radar can be hit. And the crew is unique. Yes, I'm sure if the Soviet Union planned these planes to be up to detect the United States nuclear missiles or any kind of missiles into Soviet airspace, or guide Soviet missiles into other countries' airspace, like Russia is doing now with Ukrainian airspace and Russian missiles, they never thought this plane was going to be shot down. Since it's such a valuable plane, it's supposed to fly in safe airspace with complete air superiority, but Russia is not able to enforce complete air superiority. If I say superiority, they're not able to push Ukrainian anti-air defense systems far away from the front that they could charge or attack the planes, Russian planes. Anything that flies over Ukrainian airspace will be shot down, although this plane was shot down over Russian airspace, which makes it even more crazy. Now, we don't know if the Ukrainians or the Russians themselves shot it down. There are many stories and many rumors about it, and of course Budanov claimed it was the Ukrainians. There are still many other versions of it. Russia upscaled production of missiles, drones and other equipment. It does not have the capacities to upscale production of large fuselage planes. The last A-50 was produced in 1990. Ilyushin 76, the platform for A-50. Production is minimal. Russian state got the last Ilyushin 76 in 1995. So we're not only talking about the inability to produce the A-50, they cannot do it. They also don't produce new Ilyushin 76 planes, which is the main platform for passenger airplanes. I think the thread is perfect in summarizing why this A-50's loss is such a big deal. All of the missile strikes we see over Ukraine and the casualties, they're partially done because this Russian A-50 is up in the air over the Black Sea, guiding all of these missiles. If this plane is not in the air anymore, the efficiency of Russian missiles goes down greatly. Now there are stories, first of all, that the AWACS was shot down by S-200, a very old complex. Then there are stories that it was shot down by a Patriot system. Hit and run, almost like a Patriot kamikaze attack, because you're not supposed to use Western Patriot system like that. But if it's effective, if it works, it ain't stupid. Then Russians themselves claim that this was a Russian blue-on-blue friendly fire incident. All of these situations, doesn't matter which one is true, are incredibly bad for Russia and very good for Ukraine. Now, what Budanov more clarified, the head of the Ukrainian military intelligence, Budanov clarified that Russia does not have 5 but 6 A-50 flying radar platforms. Now, they have more of these planes, but they're for scrap parts, spare parts. 6 of them are operational after the shoot down of the last one. Now, 40 were produced, 6 still operational, so you can use all of these, yeah. Now, in the last 2 weeks, 14 days, oh no, that is in the span of 5 days actually, but since time has passed, we can say 2 weeks. 17th of February, 3 planes lost. 18th, 1 plane lost. 19th, 2 planes lost. 21st, 1 plane lost. 23rd of February, 3 planes lost, and that includes the A-50. The thing is, after Ukrainians did pull the fighting retreat from Avdiivka, Russians got this, oh, we got Avdiivka, yeah, za rodinu, za Stalinu, let's go. They pushed from all fronts and they started using their air force again, something they stopped doing ever since the second year of war because they started losing a lot of planes. Well, now Russian command felt like Ukrainian defenses are crumbling and they started pushing the air force, and immediately what do we see? Boom, boom, bim, bam, boom, shooting out of the sky. So Ukrainian defenses are holding, Russian planes are being shot out of the sky. Not that rosy for the Russians. My friends, it's exploding in Russia on a daily basis. How is this possible? Well, now we have a key piece of information that puts it all into perspective, and I love this stuff. Russia is terrorizing Ukraine with missiles. What is Ukraine doing? Well, they now have developed their own, very own missile program, produced in Ukraine. The Minister of Strategic Industries of Ukraine announced that Ukraine is now producing its own missiles, which have already hit targets 700 kilometers away. Wow. They hope to carry out several attacks deep inside Russian territory against companies related to the adversary's defense industry. The recent attack on a metallurgical company in Lipetsk was apparently also conducted using a drone capable of covering long distances. According to an assessment of Ukrainian military intelligence, the strategically important metallurgical company is expected to be out of operation for an extended period. In his speech, the minister also emphasized that this year Ukrainian defense forces will start using drones on land. Oh, so much information that I want to comment on here. Let's go with the drones on land. We have already seen these platforms of smaller drones with machine guns or anti-tank guided weapons mounted on top, unmanned, and they attack or tie up single Russian positions. Now, these drones are quite expensive to make and they're quite easy to destroy. So I don't really see much point in these drones. You can do the very same thing by mounting these on the flying drone, but then you have more maneuverability and the drone is harder to be destroyed. So land drones, I'm still skeptical. But if they produce something, it always looks very nice and futuristic. I'll be featuring it on the videos because it's an eye candy. Now, marine drones and just regular drones up in the sky, fixed wing or rotor drones, these are the way to go because they have proved themselves in battle over and over again. Land drones, though, expensive, but small results. Let's now go with Ukrainian missile program. Let's take that topic. And why is it important? Well, because Russia gets most of its money by oil and gas exports. Oil and gas exports happen because oil refineries and how you call them? Gas refining plants? Well, here we have the head of the Ukrainian SBU, Vasyl Malyuk, and I'll say his quote or translate because this video doesn't have a translation. If we look at the last 2 months, how many oil refining facilities of the enemy were successfully hit, we managed to reduce the export of oil products by 1/3. 30% of Russian oil export money has not been happening, is taken away from them because Ukraine is focusing down periodically and methodically Russian oil facilities, oil refineries. Russia doesn't have that many of them. And roughly 55% of the military budget is coming from foreign exchange earnings from the export of petroleum products. That means these oil refineries are very much a military target because they fuel the military in every way, with fuel and with money. And this ties up to the long-range drones and the Ukrainian missiles program, 700 kilometers. A lot of Russian refineries, actually majority of them, are in the striking distance of Ukrainian missiles and drones now. And since most of the money and budget Russian military gets comes from selling gas and oil, Ukraine has an ability to take that money away from Putin. Very nice. On this video, it was January 24th, we see the Tuapse, Krasnodar Krai, the Russian Rosneft oil refinery burning. On these photos and videos, we're not now talking about an oil refinery, but another very important plant and production facility for Russia and Moscow and Putin. Warehouses belonging to the aeronautical company Sukhoi in the Begovoy district, Moscow, are burning. Now, Ukrainian drone or missile or whatever landed there, this company produces airplanes for Russian Air Force, attacking oil refineries, these warehouses, production facilities. Whatever you hit, it makes damage. Whatever damage you make, you don't fix that fast. In Russia, things are not fixed fast, if they are at all. Russian roads take like 10 to 15 years, if ever, to be fixed. Building factories also not their strongest point. Most of these factories are built with Western advisories and Western companies and Western tech. So taking these out, it's a one-time thing. They will not recover from this. Although they do have a lot of factories, so you do have to strike a lot of targets. But if you do, they will not be targets again because they are not able to repair them in the span of this war. For example, let's take this one. A Ukrainian drone flew to the Novolipetsk metallurgical plant, or 2 or 3 drones. A big fire started. By the way, NMLK produces at least 18% of all steel in Russia and is key in the group of one of the richest people in the Russian Federation. For example, Vladimir Ilysin. It also supplies steel, alloys and rolled products to Russian defense industry enterprises that produce ballistic and cruise missiles. This is one of the key enterprises of strategic industry. So this plant right here that was struck produces metal for ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, planes, tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, drones, everything. Because Russian production is centralized, not like Ukrainian drone production where it's decentralized all over the country in basements. Russian country, Putin, has ordered 1 to 2 to 3 different companies to make all of the drones, meaning they will use these huge, massive production facilities. So it's very easy for Ukraine to struck them, and they have the capabilities to do so. Now, you take steel is the main resource for Russian war effort. They use mass human wave tactics with mass columns of infantry fighting vehicles and tanks, which need just a hell lot of steel to be produced. You take this out of action, first of all, they are exporting steel. You diminish their export revenues and you diminish their production efficiency of making tanks and infantry fighting vehicles and drones and missiles. And Ukraine is focusing down on Russian production facilities. My friends, now talking about the missiles, this is the last missile topic, then I'll move on, but it's very important because if we talk about Taurus missiles, almost for 1 year the Germans have not wanted to send them, or at least Olaf Scholz has not wanted to send them. Well, now that Ukrainians do have their own missile program with 700 kilometers of range, several Ukrainian officials have mentioned in recent weeks in relation to the development of Ukraine's new missiles and drones that Ukraine now has the capability to destroy the Crimean Bridge at any moment. I think they had that capability even before, but they are waiting, and I think you guys know what they're waiting for. It's coming up. Listen to this. Just yesterday, Ukrainian ministers advised in their speeches that Russian civilians should avoid using the bridge for the time being. The Russian leadership understands very well that Ukraine might plan to destroy Crimean Bridge just before the presidential election of Russia. Yes, this would be perfect. Since Putin will do the sham election, of course, 97.7, what is the Russian number every year, is the outcome, and they all vote for Putin, 97.7%, something like that. That is the outcome again, but just before that, Crimean Bridge is exploded. That shows that Russian president is not able to guard Russian airspace, guard Russian landmarks, and Crimean Bridge is his baby. It's one of the most important things he's ever did, because in his mind he wants to be like Peter the Great, adding Crimea to Russian mainland, and the only vital physical link is the Crimean Bridge. Take that away from him, and the sham democratic election, not democratic at all, will look quite funny. So I do hope Ukrainians are planning such a nice surprise for the Kerch Bridge. But my friends, now I've focused on many things that are very bad for Russia. Now, to balance things out and to have a realistic report to you, I know some of you have clicked away, but those who have stayed, now we will focus on some bad things for Ukraine. And I know I want to give you some positive news, because on this channel I want to leave you with good feeling. I cannot ignore the reality. So I will read you a thread by Emil Kastehelmi, a very nice thread, but unfortunately the real situation for Ukrainians is very dense, quite dark, and it's very similar to 2022. Nobody knew what was going to happen, and the potential was very dire and dark. The third year of the Russian full-scale invasion begins, and Ukraine is facing multiple difficulties. There's no room for optimism, as many problems can't be solved in the coming months. While Ukraine was on the offensive in 2023, Russia silently amassed significant forces. Since mid-October, Russians have been attacking on multiple fronts. At the same time, Ukraine faces both external and internal challenges. Let's start with the Ukrainian problems. Ukraine experienced, unfortunately, huge losses in 2023. The summer offensive was costly, but it didn't reach any strategic goals. After the summer, the losses were increasingly difficult to fully replace. The military leadership likely saw the incoming problems. And now you all remember what happened after the mobilization wanted to be declared by Zelensky and Zaluzhny, and then the discord between them, and now we have Syrskyi as the chief of staff. Towards the end of 2023, public disputes regarding new mobilization laws surfaced. The military leadership and President Zelensky disagreed on how many men should be mobilized. There was a lack of urgency in decision-making, even though the manpower issue had to be solved. Ukraine is currently preparing new mobilization laws, but their enactment will take until late spring. Recruits will likely have a month or two to settle their affairs before their military service, and the training of the new soldiers will take at least 2 months. 2 months, not a lot at all. I will not read you the rest. I think you got the idea. The thing is, Ukraine will declare a mobilization because they need it. They will declare one. That means if all the training and the time given to recruits to get their personal life in order, all of that stuff put aside, then Ukrainians, new recruits, might be going to the front lines August, September, perhaps July at the earliest. That means from, let's say, March to July is a Russian window where Ukraine doesn't have Western aid. They haven't declared mobilization, or if they have, they're still training the recruits. So the front lines are undermanned. Ukrainian brigades are undermanned. And Ukraine is now actively focusing on defense. So Russian window is about March, April, May, June, July. 5 months of Russian window, and they are trying to force it already, attacking almost everywhere they can. Right now, the defenses are very much holding. Russians are taking huge losses. There are issues in the Russian part also with that, the threats of mutiny actually, but they don't care about this. They will just shoot anybody or hang anybody who mutinies. So next 5 months before Ukrainian new recruits of the mobilization that even hasn't been declared yet will reach the front lines. The next 5-month window is a Russian offensive window. This will show how the war will go. My friends, now we jump to Belarus. Yes, ever heard of that country? I'm sure you haven't, because it's not even a real country anymore. It's a Russian puppet under Lukashenko, a dictator puppet to Vladimir Putin. The thing is, Belarus can only be a new country after Russia has been defeated and Belarus is free from the yoke of the Kremlin. But what happened is a huge hacking mission was done in Belarus, where 2,000 screens in public spaces all over Belarus, and they played the address of Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. She is the biggest and the most famous opposition leader of Belarus, and she at one point even declared herself as president of Belarus, democratic president, because Lukashenko is mustache potato man, I mean, dictator. Sviatlana was calling for support of Ukraine, ignore sham elections and continue the resistance. This is great success, and 2,000 screens, and they played for altogether 2 hours of that message, that beautiful, great message to the people of Belarus. My friends, last time when I was in Ukraine, there was a top secret meeting, and I can show you a video. Don't worry, I'm not breaking any OPSEC rules. You won't understand anything of that video. What I can say is there was me from Estonia, there was GUR representatives, and there was the United States former ambassador to Ukraine. So US was present, also represented in the meeting. And there's a very cool video my editor Adrian did, so I want to show you and play the full video to you. Now I'm going now, and I'll see you tomorrow, my friends. So until my next video, and watch the video before you go. Stay cool, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.